Happy Sunday. Welcome to the start of another weekly reading vlog where I am hopeful to get a lot read. Will that happen? I don't know. Let's see. I have a little bit of a crazy week. Hi, happy Sunday. I hope you had a great one. Got up early to do some reading, did a little bit, and then Josh got up and I forgot that he actually went into work a little late today. So we ended up laying around watching Boruto. Unfortunately, apparently we are in fact nearing the end of the episodes that are currently dubbed over. So we're eventually gonna have to wait. And I think it actually happens in the middle of an arc, which is a travesty. This morning, I did work on reading A Tempest of Tea by 𝗖cie sais𝘁𝗁𝘁. I'm not gonna talk about this too much in this video just because I do have a dedicated reading vlog for this coming out, I think before you'll be seeing this vlog. So I'll put a link to that in the cards. Currently, I'm at 150 pages in and I am really enjoying it. It's definitely 𝗖cie sais𝘁𝗁𝘁's writing, which I absolutely adore. I've had a lot of annotations, 2 different romances that are developing that I'm very invested in, both of them. And then like the heist element, it's still definitely in the developing stages. We're setting everything up, we're figuring out all of these working parts, how they're gonna move together to make this heist happen. But I'm excited, I'm intrigued. I'm definitely going to keep reading a little bit more of this, but this will not be the focus of the vlog. Rather, I have these 2 beautiful babies that I'll be reading. So first for my digital pick, which was, shoot, what was my digital pick? I don't remember what my prompts were. My digital pick was The Single Dads Club by 𝗖cie sais𝘁𝗁𝘁. I am going to be buddy reading this with Ray at Bookmark Chronicles. Put links to her information in the description as well as over in the cards. Love her. This is going to be our first buddy read, so this will be pretty fun. I know this is following a man who recently found out he is a father. And while staying in this small town, he meets our heroine who is staying here, also trying to kind of reform her previous rich girl image and is now working as a waitress. But she's determined to get him involved with this local single dad club. All I can picture is the dad group and what to expect when you're expecting.
It's still on the other side.
Stay on that side, Alex. This is the side where happiness goes to die.
Don't mind Craig, he's had a bad week.
And I just feel like that's gonna be a really fun time. I've never heard anybody else talk about this, but I'm very excited for it. It will be, I think, my first single dad romance too. So here's hoping that I will like that trope. I'm excited for it one way or another. I cannot get the audiobook of this anywhere, so I will have to be physically reading it this week. Thankfully though, I do tend to work through romance books pretty quickly when I read them physically. As for my owned TBR book, I will actually be getting the audio for 𝗖cie Where's Your Husband by Lizzie Demalola Blackburn. This was a book of the month that I got a long time ago that was kind of out there grab, but I had seen Emily Henry talk about it and kind of pitch it as similar to Bridget Jones' Diary, but following this Nigerian woman in Britain. And I am a little intrigued. I've never really heard anybody else talk about this one. And as I said, it is a hair outside my usual comfort zone because I don't even think it's really a romance. I think it's more of a contemporary story or maybe a literary. I'm not sure. We'll find out together though. For the last few hours, I've been getting a bit of filming done, but now that I've gotten all of that worked in, I think I'm officially going to get the audio of this baby queued up, take Faith on a quick you know what, and then work out, do some chores around the house. I'm pretty sure we finally have set out the time and all of the people needed to get a bunch of this leftover furniture out of my house that I don't need and give it to people who want it. Hopefully that'll be happening this week. Hey guys, happy Monday. Hope you had a great one. Yesterday, I was pretty productive for most of the night, ended up taking a bath, which was also just very relaxing, but I got a lot read into 𝗖cie Where's Your Husband? I listened to this while I walked Faith, while I did some chores around the house, while I made dinner, while I ate dinner somewhat because I just couldn't stop listening, and then I listened to some more of it when I took a shower. I got a lot read. Today I had work. It was fine. I went over to my brother's tonight because I am actually going to be going over to a book club on Thursday night, which is the night I usually go to my brother's. So swap days. We finished out season 6 of My Hero Academia and oh my gosh, it's I can't wait for season 7. I'll just put it that way. Ended up coming home a little bit early because it started raining like crazy hard, had hail and everything. So I went ahead when there was a lull, headed home, continued listening to 𝗖cie. Currently, I'm actually at page 285. Though I have not actually seen nor read Bridget Jones's Diary, it does seem like that is a perfect comp title to this one because 𝗖cie she's likable when things start out, but she is so desperate to be with somebody, to find happiness in another person, that she completely loses her own identity. She is lying to people. She also ends up losing her job, and she is so embarrassed, terrified of being a disappointment, of not living up to other people's expectations of her, that she just completely changes who she is as a person. But I do think the author is writing her in a very well done way, because I perfectly have followed everything that's gone on in the story to get us to this point. Everything that we've seen 𝗖cie experience and how she keeps doubling down on this makes perfect sense for the woman that she has become. And even when her best friend Nina keeps trying to convince her, like, this is not good, this is not healthy, what you're doing is not sustainable, 𝗖cie just won't listen, and it's ridiculous. It's so frustrating to read. I'm not invested in any possible romance she has with anybody because I really just want this woman to go to therapy. When she does interact with her family members, it is like such a double-edged sword, because sometimes there's these really sweet, really cute moments, and then other times they just reinforce the things that she is scared of, that she's a disappointment, that she's going to be alone forever, that she'll never have children. It's so ridiculous. I would say this is like a character study that has, you know, a little bit of romantic elements. I'm not really feeling them. The only one I kind of am is Donovan, but even then it seems like they're also so like diametrically opposed that I don't think that would work as a long-term relationship. Really, my biggest thing is I just want this woman to get therapy. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm enjoying this book, but I can't look away. It's like a car crash. You have to watch everything play out. Yeah, and I'm hopeful it'll end on a satisfying note, but we'll see. I'm not really sure. I did also read a little bit more into A Tempest of Tea last night, continuing to really like this. I hit part 2, which was interesting because I don't think I realized there were parts in this, but I am really enjoying it, if you can't tell from all of these annotations. Seeing as how I ended up getting home earlier than anticipated, I think I'm going to take advantage of this little bit of extra time just to try and get some more physical reading in, because I don't really have a ton of time for that during the week. Oh, right, I forgot to also mention the eclipse was today, and where I live is actually right in the path of totality, so I was able to experience a total solar eclipse. It was wild. Thankfully I have a cool boss and we were able to actually go outside and watch it, but super wild. It ended up looking like it was, 8 o'clock at night rather than 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Very awesome experience. I think I might have gotten like a little bit of a video. Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. Yesterday was Tuesday, Josh had the day off, so he ended up coming over after I worked, and we took Faith for a walk at the nature preserve, which was really nice. Did about 2.5 miles. Came back, made a delicious dinner, pork cutlet with couscous and green beans, then watched the rest of Boruto that is currently translated on Hulu. Though apparently did find out that we can get more episodes on YouTube, thankfully, because you got me invested in this stupid show and then we weren't going to be able to watch anymore until they got translated. But apparently they are translated. They're just not available on Hulu for some reason. Anyway, between all of that though, I did actually get a fair amount of reading done yesterday. I finished listening to 𝗖cie, Where's Your Husband? I liked this, but at the same time, I wouldn't really describe my reading experience of this book as enjoyable because 𝗖cie was so infuriating. She was so frustrating just to watch and see her make the same mistakes again and again and again. And finally, by the end, she does learn from them. She finally starts to reflect on herself. I was glad that this had a positive viewing of therapy and trying to really focus on loving yourself first before trying to make something work with a relationship. It took a while to get there, but it finally did. I don't think I'd ever really reread this, but I'm glad I finally got around to reading it. I do think describing this book as a car crash is the best way I can put it. Not super enjoyable, but like I couldn't look away. I had to find out how everything worked out in the end. Oh, I also realized I never actually talked about the fact that this is told in multimedia formats where you'll see like receipts or text messages, emails, different pieces of media that tie into whatever the events are taking place in the story. So I finished this one, which was for my physical TBR. Then I also managed to finish out Tempest of Tea physically. Loved it. I'm not going to talk about too many of my final thoughts here because I do have a video that, like I said, already came out for it. I cannot wait for the sequel. So last night after Josh and I got ready for bed, we sat down and did a little bit of reading. He read some manga while I officially started into The Single Dads Club by 𝗖cieých𝘁𝗁𝘁. This is the one that I'm buddy reading with Ray. My expectations were a little bit skewed for this, but not like too terribly off. I thought that the male main character basically just had his son dropped on his doorstep and the mom wasn't involved. Turned out it was a one-night stand with this girl he knew from high school. They're not in a romantic relationship, they're just co-parenting. She is going to go on like some work trip in 2 weeks, so he is going to be a single dad alone taking care of this child once that happens, and he is very nervous about it. He didn't really want to be a parent, and it seems like he was kind of neglected and abandoned by his own parents, so he didn't want to continue that, and now it's making him really fearful of what sort of a dad he will be. Then on the opposite side, we have Delilah, who I know once upon a time was like super rich, and now she is kind of making her own life in this very small town. She works at a cafe, and she is head over heels for him and his son, but she doesn't really know them. She doesn't want to get involved with anybody because she's trying to focus on herself. Ironic callback to 𝗖cie there. But at the same time, he is so handsome and the baby is just so cute, and she has a hard time not just talking to him and getting to know a little bit more about him. That's really all I've seen so far. I'm only about 20 pages in, but I am liking it. It is pretty cute at this moment. So normally I would probably be taking Faith on a walk at this point, but it's been raining really hard for most of the day. It's not now, but still. And my period started, so I'm not feeling good. I'm very crampy, just really not in the mood to move. Honestly, I think I'm gonna lay on the couch and read Single Dads Club. I did also finish my audiobook, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to listen to, so I did a little poll on the Discord that I'm involved in. They ended up going with the sci-fi one, which was the next Star Wars book, Into the Dark. So I did go ahead and download the audio, but that will be for my Star Wars canon project. But that's it for now. I will talk to y'all later, hopefully, probably, maybe, we'll see. Hey y'all, happy Thursday. So what happened today? I had a pretty decent day at work. It was a little busier than anticipated. I took Faith on a quick walk, had a very fast dinner, and then I ended up going to book club for the fantasy book club I joined at my local library. I ended up talking about The Witch's Heart because we were discussing books that came from like familiar fables. So, you know, mythology retelling can kind of fall into that prompt. It was a lot of fun. Whilst I was there, I went ahead and grabbed the next 3 volumes of Soul Eater that I have. I actually had these checked out, but needed to return them because I had had them checked out for too long. So I got volume 10, 11, and 12. Hopefully I will manage to make a little bit more progress on this series this month. We'll see. Then last night I did read more into Single Dads Club. I'm enjoying this, but I will say it is a little insta-lovey for me. Whenever our two main characters interact, it's just, they're a little too head over heels for the other person when they really don't know that much about them. Not my favorite. However, I've been in the mood for a romance book for so long that this is kind of just like scratching that itch for me, and it's working. It's really cute. I do like the single dad element. I guess it was less of an important part of the plot because I thought a lot of the story was going to be dedicated to her like trying to convince him to join the Single Dads Club, pushing him into it or something, but rather she kind of just convinces her brother to give this guy advice and let him hang out with his two best friends. All three of them are single dads, so they do kind of give him some advice, and you can tell that Roman is just very terrified that his experience growing up with his parents is going to impact the way he treats his own son. He really doesn't want that to happen, but there was this great moment where the other dads are kind of talking to him and being like, everybody has crap that's going to impact your life as a parent, but you know, you just have to try and not put that crap onto your kid because it's not theirs to deal with. On top of that, I guess I also kind of expected something different from Delilah's storyline. I was expecting her to sort of be like an Alexis from Schitt's Creek, where she was this rich girl who kind of, you know, was really stuck up, spoiled, a mean girl, but really it more seems like she was privileged, but not necessarily a bad person because of that. Rather, her parents apparently were involved in some shady crap, and now she's kind of like trying to atone for their sins. Is sort of what I'm getting, which is, it wasn't really what I was thinking. However, she has commented she's in therapy. She's talked about therapy with her best friend, so maybe it's like she just needs to focus on herself in therapy a little bit more. One way or another, I am liking this, but again, I do think part of it could just be that it's scratching the itch I've had for a romance book. Ray has decided to soft DNF it, and I'm gonna keep reading and tell her whether or not I think some of the issues she was having will be resolved and whether or not she should push through. We'll see though. I don't think this is gonna be like a 5-star or anything, but at this moment I am liking it. Then I think I talked about yesterday that the next audiobook I was gonna start into was a Star Wars one. Did officially dive into that today when I was driving to and from work on top of going to the library, and then when I took Faith on a walk. So I have started into Star Wars Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, and this one is following, I'm still getting to know everybody's names, Wreath, who is a Padawan. That's right. So Wreath is a giant nerd. He doesn't inherently have a lot of talent in manipulating the Force, but he is really dedicated. He will put a ton of time into getting better, and he felt that he could do that more easily with academics than trying to be like an adventurer when it came to being a Jedi. However, he's a Padawan, and the knight who is training him is like, you don't get that choice. Sometimes you have to go outside your comfort zone. His master Jorah agrees to go on this mission to the Starlight Beacon, that's right, which is a new outpost in the Outer Rim where the Republic is trying to establish connections with some of the planets that are further out there, the civilizations that are further out. And Aura, of course, has Wreath coming along with her, but he doesn't really want to do this. He'd rather stay on course focus on what he's really passionate about, what he really enjoys. He doesn't really want to be an adventurer, but again, doesn't really get a choice. He gets on a ship to travel to this outpost, to the Starlight Beacon. However, while the ship is in hyperspace, they end up crashing into a remnant from a ship that was destroyed in a hyperspace crash, basically, in the previous book. And so now they are stranded. I do know from the summary that they are supposed to take shelter on an abandoned space station, and then like weird stuff starts happening. So I'm really hoping this kind of plays on like a sci-fi horror vibe. That would be very fun, especially in the Star Wars world. I just think that would be really interesting to see. I'm probably gonna go take a shower and continue listening to the audiobook of this. Then once I get out, I am going to continue reading this baby because I am not nearly as far in as I want to be. I need to finish this. It would really be awesome if I could start into one of the next books I need to read, because I have one book that I need to get read by next Wednesday for a book club, but I also have another book that I need to get read for next Friday's video, and they're both romances. And I don't really love reading two books from the same genre at the same time. could change your mind. Hey guys, happy Friday. I hope you had a good one. Work was actually pretty good today. It was just like surprisingly busy, but at the same time, like busy in a way where I felt very productive. So that was nice. However, reading updates, not great. Unfortunately, last night I came to the decision that I was gonna DNF Single Dads Club. I forgot I already took the bookmark out. I think I was at 121 pages. I really wanted to like this, and I do think part of why I've stuck it out so long is because I've really been in the mood for a romance book, but unfortunately, I can't with these characters. Every single time, it feels like they're gonna have this like really meaningful communication, this moment that's finally gonna allow them to connect, to really get to know one another. In both perspectives, they end up wrapped up in their own minds and just like having this whole internal debate, reminding themselves why they can't end up with this person, why they can't date this person. And it was so exhausting. It just kept going in circles. Really, the big scene that was like, okay, I can't anymore, was Rowan gets invited to Delilah's niece's birthday party. Her brother is part of the Single Dads Club, and so this is kind of like forcing him to socialize, to get to know some people around the community, and he's hoping in doing this, it'll kind of allow for some connections that will allow his kid to have connections. He has so much trauma around the neglect his parents put him through, and you can tell he's doing his best not to let that happen to his relationship with his son. However, he is going so far in the opposite direction. He can't do everything. He can't be there every single second watching over Declan. Specifically at this party, he ends up socializing with a few people. They're cousins. One of them is new to the area and kind of offers to show him around. Apparently this guy is gay. His cousins take this as a joke of like, oh, he just asked you out on a date, ha ha ha. It's really not that funny, but Rowan takes it as like they're laughing at him. Delilah inserts herself into this conversation to make him feel more comfortable, forces them to explain the entire situation and why they weren't laughing at him and why it wasn't actually that funny, and they're sorry that they made him feel uncomfortable. And Rowan needs like 5 minutes to decompress from that situation, somehow turns it into an explanation of this is why I can't socialize with anybody, and this is why my kid will be lonely because I'm shy and reserved, and my poor child is going to suffer the consequences of my actions and my inability to hold a conversation. It was so extreme. Yeah, I couldn't. It seemed so ridiculous to me. It was too much for me. It was like I just had the hardest eye roll after that happened and realized I don't care enough to keep reading, unfortunately. I'm very bummed. I wanted to really like this. I think I talked about last night that I still need to read a romance book for my romance book club, which is next Wednesday. I need to read a romance story that has somebody who works in the medical field. Luckily for me, the second book in Penny Reid's Knitting in the City series follows a nurse and a doctor having their own little romance. I DNF'd the first book in this series. I love Penny Reid's Winston Brothers series. If you're new here, I love it so much. It is one of my favorites. I adore every single one of those men. The Winston Brothers is actually a spin-off series from Knitting in the City, which is this series. The first book was Penny Reid's debut, and you can tell when that book was written in so many aspects of the story. The main character hating on her body, the quirkiness of her, and then the male main character is way too Christian Grey for my taste. But I had already told myself I was going to read this book for this book club, and I'd already ordered it from Pango by the time I had DNF'd the first one. So I don't really have a choice. I have to try and read this, and I'm really, really hoping that it's a little bit better. Elizabeth was the best friend of Janie from the first book, and I did like the little bits of her we had seen so far. I want to read more Penny Reid books that I love. I want another series like the Winston Brothers that completely sucked me in and like I blasted through every single book. I want this book to do that for me. Will it? I don't know. So I will probably start into this one this weekend anytime I have time to read. Josh is on his way over. I don't really know what we're gonna be doing for dinner. We might go out, we might stay in because I have stuff to cook. And then tomorrow his family is going to help me with moving some furniture around the house, which I am very excited. I can't wait. And then also get some of my furniture that is still at my parents' house over here, figure out where I'm gonna put my bookshelves because I have my white bookshelves and I think I'm gonna put them against this wall. I don't know. Anyway, that's the plan for right now. Hey guys, it's Sunday. I hope you had a good weekend. First off, I have my bookshelves back. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to have these beautiful babies and finally get to put up my TBR shelves the way I've been wanting to. I hadn't rented a truck to move any big furniture. Thankfully, Josh's dad owns one and was kind enough to help me along with Josh when it came to moving some furniture. I got rid of some old stuff that was left here, and then I brought in some stuff that I had at my parents' house, including my shelves, and I'm so happy. I had a lot of fun getting to go through and organize everything. That was really nice. And I actually had a place to put out some of my decorative pieces, which is great. Yeah, so Josh and I ended up getting breakfast at a diner yesterday. Then for most of the afternoon, we were moving furniture back and forth between different houses. After that, we were both super hungry and super tired. So we got some delicious Turkish food, came home and watched a bunch of Boruto. Actually ended up going to sleep quite early and then I slept for just under 12 hours. However, I actually have gotten a fair amount of reading done since I last talked to y'all. I think when I last updated you on Friday, I had just started into Friends Without Benefits by Penny Reed, and thankfully this is going so much better than the first book did. There are certain elements of the story that could have gone really terribly for me, but thankfully that didn't happen. I think Reed is actually handling them quite well. I'm pretty sure I said that this was a romance between a doctor and a nurse. I was wrong. I don't know where I got that idea. I knew Elizabeth was a doctor, but for some reason I thought Nico was a nurse. No, he's not. His niece actually is up to participate in this research trial for cystic fibrosis, which Elizabeth was working on. Turns out she and Nico actually have a past. He was best friends with her high school boyfriend. She's known Nico since they were kids. Unfortunately for her, he has spent a lot of their time together very much pulling on her pigtails. It definitely was starting to veer into bullying, and I'm glad that Reed actually acknowledges that and has Elizabeth call Nico out for it, has him actually acknowledge it as well and apologize for it. It felt very mature in how that whole situation was handled. Really, the glaring issue keeping these two apart is just the fact that Elizabeth never handled the trauma of her high school boyfriend passing very early in life. And so she thinks she already had her one great love in life. She is never going to get that again. It's just not possible for her. And I think it's a perfect representation of why therapy, when going through something really traumatic like that at a young age, is very important. She has really never dealt with that. And so it's now affecting the ability for her to have relationships in the future, on top of all of this baggage that comes with her and Nico's relationship. And I actually really like how it's being handled. It's been really funny. I have a lot of yellow tabs in here and also a lot of pink tabs because Nico is so head over heels for her. And again, she is really the one that is putting the brakes on things. Oh, and also Nico is like this big name comedian who has this TV show. He unfortunately has a stalker, and they end up reconnecting at their high school reunion where a bunch of women are just falling all over him, getting intoxicated, getting way too handsy. So Elizabeth stands up on a chair and yells, "The child is yours," to make all of these women just freeze and stop in concern and curiosity, and it allows Nico to run out of the room. But now it turns out that was filmed. People think Elizabeth had Nico's secret love child. It's hilarious. It's so funny. Thankfully, the comedy bits in Reed's writing are still working fantastically in this series. All right, and so on that note, that is it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a stethoscope emoji in the comments. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!